Wallace just got in Christopher Bell's face on pit road. Hands flying, voice raised, cameras rolling. Fans lost it. But here's the thing nobody's telling you. The guy who knows Bubba best stepped forward and completely flipped the entire story upside down. What really happened? And why did everyone get it completely wrong? Let's go back to Sunday, May 10, 2026, Mother's Day, at Watkins Glen International. The Go Bowling at the Glen was supposed to be another road course showcase. And at the front of the field, that is exactly what it was. Shane Van Gisbergen put on a masterclass. He started on pole, controlled a massive portion of the race, and even after a late green flag pit cycle dropped him back into traffic, he carved his way forward like the race was still entirely in his hands. With 8 laps to go, Van Gisbergen passed Ty Gibbs for the lead, pulled away, and won by more than 7 seconds over Michael McDowell. Ty Gibbs finished 3rd. Chase Briscoe came home 4th, and Tyler Reddick rounded out the top 5. Clean result, dominant win. SVG in a different league on road courses right now. But further back in the field, the story was completely different. Christopher Bell finished 21st. Bubba Wallace finished 29th. Both Toyota drivers had deeply disappointing days, and the moment the checkered flag dropped, the real drama was just getting started. Before we get to that pit road confrontation, it is important to understand exactly how Bubba's race unraveled, because the confrontation did not happen in a vacuum. With about 15 laps to go, Wallace was running in traffic when he got spun. And here is a critical fact that got lost almost immediately in the online reaction. That spin came off the bumper of John Hunter Nemechek, not Christopher Bell. Nemechek was on newer tires and, according to those covering the race, could have waited to make the pass. He didn't. Wallace suffered for it. His race position was already damaged before the pit road sequence that followed ever took place. So Bubba Wallace headed into the final stretch of a 100-lap race on the 2.45-mile road course, already frustrated, already behind, and already dealing with damage from a spin that was not his fault. That is the foundation of everything that happened next. With around 8 laps to go, Wallace was called to pit road by his team. He was coming through the S's past turn 1 with Bell and Todd Gilliland right on his bumper. Coming out of the carousel, Bell got a run to Bubba's right side. And this is where the sequence becomes important. Bell's team radioed him. The number 23 is pitting. But by the time that message came through, Bell was already alongside Wallace. The communication was too late to change anything. The two stayed side by side through the corner sequence, with Bell on the inside. Bubba could not simply cut across Bell's nose to make pit entry. Cody Ware was limping around on track and blocked that option entirely. So Wallace was forced to lift, surrender his position, and wait for Bell, Gilliland, and Riley Herbst to pass before he could finally turn into pit lane. That sequence, a late radio call, a missed window, a forced lift, and 3 cars going by, cost Wallace track position at the absolute worst moment of an already ruined race. It may not look catastrophic on the final results sheet, but inside the car, in the closing laps of a race already going wrong, moments like that feel enormous. Starting 18th and finishing 29th is not what the number 23 team needed, especially with playoff pressure building every single week. After the race, as post-race interviews were underway with the top finishers, FS Zone turned its cameras toward pit road. What they found was Bubba Wallace, animated and visibly heated, speaking directly to Christopher Bell. Wallace was talking with his hands, his body language intense. Bell, in his usual calm demeanor, stood and listened. Just as Wallace appeared ready to walk away, something Bell said brought him right back in for another exchange. The Fox booth noticed it immediately. Kevin Harvick reacted by saying, "I don't think we're good right here." That one line captured exactly what every viewer was thinking in that moment. 2 drivers, face to face. One of them clearly fired up, the other calm and measured. Crew members and technicians watching from the sidelines. The clip hit social media within minutes, and the internet did exactly what the internet does. The reaction online was immediate, loud, and in many cases, far more personal than the actual incident deserved. On X, the comments started piling up fast, and they came from every direction. Some fans went straight at Bubba. One user wrote, "I forgot everyone is supposed to hurt their own lap times just for Bubba." Another fan named Chris Osborne went further and wrote, "Christopher Bell has forgotten more about racing than Bubba will ever know. He's literally been in the best equipment for years and gets embarrassed by his teammate every week." That comment is a clear example of how quickly the conversation stopped being about the actual pit road incident and became a broader attack on Wallace's career and his standing within the Toyota organization. Another user named Ken added, "So, what's the drama queen's beef? Is Bell supposed to let the two cars behind him pass him while he gives Bubba room to stay in front of him to the pit entry? Hell no!" And that argument had real logic behind it. Bell was not alone on the racetrack with nothing to lose. He had cars behind him. If he lifts or gives extra space, he risks losing time and positions himself. From a pure racing standpoint, Bell taking that run was exactly what any driver in that position would do. Other comments pushed even further. If he was being called to pit road to serve a penalty, it's his responsibility to get out of the way of cars still racing. He is at that point out of contention. Any respectable racer knows this. And then there were comments that did not stay on racing at all. I think we all know the real reason, which is the kind of vague, pointed language that surfaces every single time Bubba Wallace is involved in a visible post-race moment. The conversation rarely stays on the incident. It becomes about Bubba himself, but not everyone online was ready to pile on without asking questions first. A more careful breakdown came from Stephen Torto, who laid out the pit road timeline in detail. He wrote, "Okay, here's what I think Bubba Wallace might have been upset with Christopher Bell over. This was coming to 8 to go. Bubba was called to pit road in the S's past turn 1, with Bell and Todd Gilliland on his bumper. But coming out of the carousel, Bell got a run to Bubba's right side, and the 20 team didn't inform him that the 23 was pitting until Bell was alongside him. It put Bubba in a tough spot getting to pit road, as he couldn't just try to cut across Bell's nose. Cody Ware was there and limping around, and he had to slow down to let Bell, Gilliland, and Riley Herbst pass just so he could make pit entry." Torto also added an important qualifier. "I didn't hear Bubba say any crossword towards Bell over his radio, so it's hard to know definitively." That kind of careful, evidence-based reaction was rare in the flood of takes that followed. It acknowledged what might have happened, identified the specific communication breakdown between the teams, and still admitted that uncertainty remained. That is the only honest position anyone outside that car could take in that moment. Then came the update that changed the entire framing of this story. Bubba Wallace's spotter, Freddie Kraft, saw the speculation spreading across social media. He watched people building a Bell versus Wallace rivalry out of a post-race clip, assigning motives and making assumptions. And he stepped in with a response that was short, direct, and definitive. Freddie Kraft posted, "You shouldn't speculate." Bubba wasn't mad at Bell. That statement carries significant weight. This is not an outside observer or a fan theory. This is the man in communication with Bubba Wallace throughout every single lap of that race. When Kraft says Wallace was not mad at Bell, that is the closest thing to a first-hand account available outside of Wallace and Bell themselves. What was the conversation actually about? The most logical explanation, given the timeline, is that Wallace was walking Bell through what happened during that pit road sequence, explaining how the late radio call put him in an impossible position, how he had nowhere to go, how he lost spots because of a communication failure that had nothing to do with Bell's intent. That is a very different conversation than two drivers fighting. That is two teammates talking through a situation that got messy because of circumstances. And that distinction matters enormously, because Wallace and Bell are not rivals. They are Toyota allies. Wallace drives the number 23 for 23XI Racing. Bell drives the number 20 for Joe Gibbs Racing. The two organizations have a formal alliance, share resources, and compete on the same side of the manufacturer war in NASCAR. At the time of the race, the two drivers were also separated by just 2 points in the overall standings, with Wallace placed 10th and Bell sitting at 11th. These are not two men with a reason to go to war with each other. Bell had his own difficult Sunday. He finished 21st with his own set of frustrations. There is no evidence from anything that emerged after the race that Bell intentionally did anything to compromise Wallace's pit road entry. The late radio call was a communication issue, the kind of thing that happens in the chaos of the fun of a road course race. What this entire episode really reveals is a pattern that repeats itself almost every time Bubba Wallace is involved in a visible emotional moment. Wallace is expressive. He does not hide frustration, he wears what he feels in public, and that transparency, which in another context might be respected, consistently becomes fuel for a certain segment of NASCAR social media. A camera catches 10 seconds of animated conversation. Within an hour, entire narratives get constructed, careers get attacked, and coded language starts appearing in comment sections. The video looked intense. The internet ran with it. But Bubba's own spotter said it plainly. He wasn't mad at Bell. Sometimes a camera catches 10 seconds and the world builds a war out of it. That's NASCAR in 2026. The real story from Watkins Glen is not the pit road conversation. The real story is that Bubba Wallace started 18th, finished 29th, had his race damaged by a spin that was not his fault, lost more track position because of a late radio call from the other car's team, and then had an entirely reasonable post-race conversation with a fellow Toyota driver that the broadcast, the internet, and the algorithm all turned into something it was not. Freddie Kraft's message was 3 words: Bubba wasn't mad at Bell. Until Wallace or Bell says something that contradicts that, it is the most important and most reliable piece of information available on this entire story. Now the question for you is this: did fans completely overreact to the Bubba Wallace and Christopher Bell conversation? Or did Bubba's body language make this outcome inevitable? Drop your answer in the comments right now. Hit like and subscribe. New NASCAR breakdowns every week. Drop your take in the comments. Was Bubba right or wrong? Share this with a NASCAR fan who thinks they already know the full story.